Have you ever wondered if what is universally true about the world can automatically tell us what we should do or how we ought to behave? This profound question lies at the heart of the fact-value distinction. The fact-value distinction is a foundational concept in ethics, asserting that there is a fundamental difference between descriptive statements about the world and prescriptive statements about what is good, right, or obligatory. In essence, it highlights the challenge of logically deriving moral judgments from purely factual observations, suggesting that moral conclusions requiring more than just objective information. The core mechanism behind this distinction was famously articulated by the 18th century Scottish philosopher David Hume, often referred to as Hume's guillotine or the is-ought problem. Hume observed that writers often move from statements about what is the case, or factual descriptions, to statements about what ought to be the case, or moral prescriptions, without providing a logical bridge between the two. For example, knowing that suffering exists, a factual statement, does not automatically logically entail that we ought to alleviate suffering. The problem illustrates that facts alone, which describe reality, do not inherently carry moral force or imperatives. A moral system typically requires some form of underlying value premise or ethical principle to bridge this gap, which cannot itself be purely factual. To effectively apply this understanding in your own ethical reasoning, begin by carefully dissecting arguments to identify which claims are purely descriptive statements about facts and which are normative statements expressing values or duties. Look for underlying, often unstated, assumptions that connect an observation to a moral conclusion. If someone argues that because something is natural, it is therefore good, they are attempting to derive an ought from an is without sufficient justification. This practice encourages you to always question the logical transition between what is being described and what is being prescribed. An important insight from this distinction is the concept of the naturalistic fallacy, an insider term in philosophy. This fallacy occurs when one attempts to define ethical terms like good or right exclusively in terms of natural properties, effectively collapsing values into facts. Recognizing this fallacy helps prevent oversimplifying complex moral questions and reinforces that morality often involves inherent judgments and principles that transcend mere empirical observation. This area of inquiry is a central concern within metaethics, the branch of philosophy that explores the nature of moral judgments and properties. Ultimately, grasping the fact-value distinction empowers you to analyze ethical arguments with greater rigor and clarity. It reveals why moral discussions often requiring more than just empirical data, compelling us to explicitly articulate the values and principles that guide our judgments. This deeper insight helps in constructing more robust ethical frameworks and engaging in more nuanced and critical moral discourse.